What's up, y'all? It's your man Nico being with the Steam, coming at y'all on another one. This is episode 3 of my Black Panther fan fiction series, and I'm going to get into how my character Ndala gets into Wakanda and how he starts his journey of self discovery. So, the first point I'm going to hit on is how T'Challa brings him in and how everything goes along the way of him becoming a prominent member of the royal family and how he discovers his roots. The first thing when he comes into Wakanda is by way of Okoye, well, not Okoye, Ayo, who is the lieutenant, the first bodyguard that we saw in Captain America Civil War. And Ayo introduces him to Okoye, and through his tenure in Wakanda, he finds that his religious views are not the same as the people that live in Wakanda, of course. He grew up worshiping the Christian deity known as Christ, of course. But and the way that he goes about trying to cope with that is he initially, well, I'll say this, he doesn't initially address it at first, but he addresses it down the line. The first point I want to hit on was he is introduced to Okoye. Um, the way that he starts his journey is that he is approached by Mbaku, who is a distant cousin of his. And I will be honest that I'm still trying to work out how he is connected to the border, not the border tribe, but the Jabari tribe. But I did say his mother is from the Jabari tribe in my previous episode. So, when he initially goes and tries to basically not really assert himself, T'Challa goes about having him be in the Hattusarazi as way of Akili, and Akili starts to see him via the way that T'Challa sees him. He sees the potential he can be. He sees the man, the prince that not allegedly, but he eventually becomes in the later parts of his life in Wakanda. And so, first off, when he is introduced to Okoye, um, he goes about having um, basically an epiphany, and he finds himself trying to find out where his roots are actually from, because uh, at first, when he's in the United States and before he comes to Uganda, he doesn't really focus on where he's from initially when he gets to his assignment in Uganda when he first started studying adamantium. But there are bits and pieces in his Ugandan life where he tries to find out where he's from and he comes up on dead ends. And so when he gets to Wakanda, he starts to basically a certain, I think, light bulb goes off. And when he gets with Okoye, Okoye starts to bond with him at a certain level to where she understands how knowing who you are and who you're meant to be is a part of your basically life in Wakanda, because we know that we're all family. And so when Okoye starts to help him on his journey of self discovery, he comes across the Jabari tribe. And in his time in the Jabari lands, M'Baku initially does not believe that he is a part of the Jabari tribe. He doesn't have blood that is from the Jabari tribe. But of course, um, in Ndala meets his two cousins that he has. But I'll get to that in a later episode. So, along his journey of self discovery, T'Challa doesn't really push him, but he puts him in a realm of first making his base inside of Wakanda. And that comes, like I said, via of Akili, who is the highest ranking member in the Hattusaraze. And the way that T'Challa starts to groom him is by way of putting him in the military sense and basically learning a way of Wakandan warfare and learning, since he already has those specific traits that he has via him being in Shield. So when he becomes a prominent member of the Hattusaraze, he learns the field tactics of the Wakandan military. He learns it of the Air Force, the Navy that they have in Wakanda. And throughout his missions that T'Challa gives him, um, there is one story that I have where he goes to Naganda, who is the next door country to Wakanda. And the tyrannical leader that is over there, he tells, T'Challa tells Ndala to take him out. And that also gives us insight to how our villain comes about of the story of T'Challa. I mean, not T'Challa, but Ndala. And so, um, when that comes about, um, and I'm talking months that my character takes on the role of being in the military. He becomes a lieutenant firsthand because he already has previous um, experience in warfare and tactics. And um, let's see. So when he gets there, Achille tests him and puts him through a rigorous course of tasks that he has to initially go through, like basically boot camp. And so those require him to basically not really unlearn everything that he already does know, but basically be open to learning new things. And the biggest thing that my character goes through when he's on his self discovery is through something that old Wakandans did before T'Challa came along, and it's called the rite of passage. But the rite of passage does not come how you think. And I actually want to make a long video about this before. I actually wrote a whole story about this. And it's really interesting if you guys want to read it. But M'Baku. When M'Baku starts hearing about the newcomer, that people initially call him an outsider because they really don't know who he is. And so when he comes back to Wakanda, well, he's basically coming to Wakanda because his parents lived outside of Wakanda, like I said in my first episode. But M'Baku does not really trust Ndala at first. And so to test him to see if he's really loyal to not only the royal family and T'Challa himself, because we do know M'Baku is a friend of T'Challa, even though he's a villain. So, M'Baku sets up, I don't want to say it, it's not a coup, it's a devious plan to basically prove that Ndala is not really a native of Wakanda and that he is not supposed to be here. And so, the rite of passage that I have is that, let's see here, and I'm gonna read part one to you guys, and it goes like this: challenged by M'Baku, Ndala was given a task that is only bestowed upon certain individuals during the ancient days of Wakandan history. The task that was given to him by M'Baku was to journey to the Jabari lands and make it back without getting killed by anything, man or beast. That is only the way you're gonna pass into the Jabari lands. If you can't do that, then you are not worthy to be called prince in my presence, exclaimed M'Baku. T'Challa looked over at his mentee and gave him a look of affirmation. Looking back at M'Baku, Ndala responded by saying, I accept your challenge, M'Baku. Surprised by his response, M'Baku retorted by giving Ndala 1 week to prepare for the trek. After that, M'Baku took his leave from the throne room and began his journey back to his territory in the cold mountains of Wakanda. Are you sure you want to do this? Asked T'Challa. You are not as familiar with the Jabari as we are. T'Challa expressed concerningly. Hearing this, N'Dala retired to his quarters where he spent time meditating and doing his homework on the Jabari. In his research, he found an ancestor that connected him to the Jabari that happened to be a distant cousin of his from a generation long past. With this information, he sent this to T'Challa, Shuri, and Okoye. After he sent that info, he went to the training grounds outside of his apartment and began sharpening his skills in martial arts and weapons handling. The first thing he picked up on was his awareness of his surroundings. He sat in a meditative position and began listening to the nature around him. As he was doing so, Okoye, T'Challa, and a mixed band of Hatutarazé and Dormalaje attempted to sneak up on the young prince. Sensing something was amiss and knowing the lessons T'Challa taught him during his first couple months of living in Wakanda, moving like a panther, pun intended, N'Dala turned around and brandished his spear that he carried with him when journeying outside of Wakanda's borders. Unsheathing his weapon, N'Dala twirled his weapon before coming in contact with Adora's spear of her own. He then double-backed and used his heightened speed to dodge and parry blows coming from Okoye and T'Challa, knocking a few Hatutarazé off balance and even catching a few Dora off guard. N'Dala charged after Okoye and T'Challa in a final bout. Using his telepathy to his advantage, he predicted the moves of T'Challa and adjusted his tactics accordingly. Extending his panther claws from the hands of his suit, T'Challa went on the offensive and began moving at incredible speeds that were seemingly a challenge for him. As T'Challa lunged forward, N'Dala was able to teleport in the nick of time before T'Challa made contact with him. Teleporting behind him, N'Dala kicked T'Challa off balance and meleeed an advance made by Okoye and a few other King's Guards. Flipping in the air, N'Dala attempted to maneuver behind T'Challa, only to be stunned by Ayo with her staff via an electrical pulse sent from the handle of her spear. That is basically the first episode, part one of the rite of passage through M'Baku challenging N'Dala. And so, from that, I have basically told you guys how everything from N'Dala learning that he is basically a prince of Wakanda. He is the lost prince, due to him not knowing that he is from Wakanda through his parents. But his parents gave him subtle hints along the way, and I am still developing that story. That part of the story, because N'Dala is essentially a part of the royal family. And so, when push comes to shove, and down the line through the certain films with the MCU, he eventually becomes king, because T'Challa has made it to where he's a substitute king, but he is a person who is assumingly his heir. And like I said in the beginning of this, at the beginning of the previous video, T'Challa wanted to find someone who was suitable to replace him. Now, I will probably get questions about how T'Challa could be separated. Well, not out of the picture. He's not out of the picture. He's always been there to mentor his, basically, I don't want to say his younger brother, but someone he knows is capable of handling the throne duties. And he's a young king. And the relationship that he has with other members of the royal family and the people that guard the royal family are very, very important. I'll be coming at you guys on another one soon. Please, if you guys have questions, you can email me or contact me. Contact me on, I'm going to put my Discord link down here. I do have other things coming soon, and I look forward to have you guys ask questions. And please, like, share, subscribe, and open your mind to new possibilities with the Black Panther franchise. I thank you guys. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all in the next one.